All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody.
So exciting. So excited.
How's everybody doing? All right. Hallelujah. That's awesome. We are streaming live, so we want to get this recorded tonight. We have a special little service for us tonight. We finished up the spiritual warfare with Kim. Next week is going to be the 911. And then after that, we're starting a new series that Christian Durham is going to lead. So he's been working on that. So that'll happen starting on the 12th? Isn't that Wednesday? Something like that. So we're gonna listen to Tammy's full testimony tonight. You guys are going to be blown away of the things that she's gone through. And I think there's some things that we see here today, but we have no clue what she's gone through to get to this point. And I think you guys are going to be fascinated and blown away by this process and how powerful God is in healing and restoring and all that. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Tammy, and she's just going to lay it out there for us. So give it up for Tammy.
Yeah. Let's say thanks. You could say thanks to Pastor Dave because he just called me this afternoon or texted me this afternoon. So he knew I was ready. No, I'm okay.
You gonna stand?
I think I'll stand. I was at Perry today with my grandson, Benson. Is that too loud? No. I was with Benson. I was with Benson today, and as I said, he called me. But so on the way home, I got to Knoxville at 6 p.m., and I'm like, I'm going to go to Walmart because I knew I had to talk in an hour. So at Walmart, I went there for one thing, but I came out with 4 or 5. But I got this for my grandson. So Grandma is my name and spoiling is my game. So I get to wear this with Benson when I go see him. So he's great, yeah. I'm going to go through this in 3 or 4 different parts, but I'm going to start with a introduction. And I have a magazine that I get. It's like every other month. It's a bipolar magazine, and that's what I have. I have been diagnosed with bipolar 1. And it just kind of goes through bipolar each time I get the magazine. I kind of read through it. Things do change. And so bipolar disorder is a treatable illness marked by extreme changes in mood, thought, energy, and behavior. Bipolar disorder is also known as manic depression, between the two poles of mania and depression. The change in moods can last for hours, days, weeks, or months, and I have experienced all that. What bipolar is not, it is not a character flaw or a sign of personal weakness, and it is genetic as well, so I got it through my maternal side of my family. I have, as I said, bipolar 1, because there's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is characterized by 1 or more manic episodes that last at least a week or require hospitalization, which that is what I had. I've had 1 manic episode, and I was in the hospital, I think, for over a month. And I'll talk about that in a little bit again. Bipolar 2 is characterized by 1 or more depressive episodes accompanied by at least 1 hypomanic episode. So you got manic, hypomanic, yeah, you got them all. So hypomanic episodes have symptoms similar to manic episodes, but are less extreme and don't last as long. However, the person's behavior is clearly different from the norm to other people. So also, what was kind of scary for me was that how common is bipolar in children? And because bipolar disorder tends to run in families, as it does in mine, having a parent with bipolar increases the likelihood that a child also will develop bipolar. When one parent has bipolar, the risk to each child is estimated to be 15 to 30%. So I have 2 children. And I already had Joey before I was diagnosed, but Dr. Lewis, who was my first doctor, he did not want me to have another child because of the genetics. But Sarah did come along, and luckily that 1 year that I was pregnant and nursed her for 3 months, I did really well. But I did know when I had to go back on the lithium. So treatment for bipolar, a psychiatrist is an excellent idea. I've had 3 psychiatrists and 2 out of 3 were really good. So, and the one I have now is excellent. Or a general practitioner with expertise in treating this illness. And treatments may include medication, talk therapy, and support groups, which I've done all those. But you also have ECT, which is electrical convulsive therapy. I've had over 50 treatments of that. So I've lost a lot of memories. And then also there's TMS, which is transmagnetic stimulation. So they just kind of give you a little magnetic stimulation with this like old hair dryer thing on there. But yeah, so I went through that also in October of 2020. So
Tell Tammy how it worked. You went through, you had to go through the shock treatment.
yeah. Because I had 50 of those treatments. So I will kind of bring those up as we go along because it happened 2 different times during my illness or with my illness. Some other things about mental illness that I just want to, or I don't like to call it mental illness. Actually, it's psychological disorder or psychiatric illness. So they don't know what to call it, but it's coming around. So I think it's psychological disorders. The definition of that is a mental disorders are patterns of behavioral or psychological symptoms that impact multiple areas of life. These disorders create distress for the person experiencing them. So there's a lot of them. The types of disorders that I found online, I thought it was interesting. I'm not going to go a lot into definitions. If you have any questions at the end or at another time, just ask me. I'll look it up for you too if I don't know. But there's neurodevelopmental disorders, bipolar and related disorders, anxiety disorders, trauma/stress disorders, dissociative disorders. So there's a lot. The physicians use what's called a DSM-5, and that stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And it comes out every 3 to 5 years. And so it doesn't always have all the treatment for all of us that have psychological disorders, but it gives them a lot of to go by and how to, diagnose people. And then also that DSM-5, imagine how many, physical disorders there are, or physical illnesses. Mentally, there's over hundreds that they have in this DSM-5 that they can find, help people, treat people, and they can go to this manual and find it all out. So guess what the 2 most common mental or physiological disorder is? There's 2 really common, and bipolar is not one of them. I'm not the most common. Anxiety, yep. Anxiety is probably number 1. Depression's number 2. So a lot of us have went through these things, or we know people, loved ones that have went through them. So it's definitely out there, anxiety and depression. And with my bipolar, I actually have an anxiety component to it. So I do take medicine for anxiety as well as bipolar. Another way to look at things, this was under a different site, depression, personality disorders, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, eating disorders, and addictive behaviors. So these are all things that we all go through, and some of them are genetic, some of them might not be, but I know that mine is. Okay, so I was gonna see one more thing here.
Might help her through the shake.
Oh, well, I'm gonna be done with papers here soon.
You're gonna be done in a minute.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be talking. This is just out of one of my NAMI books. That's National Alliance of the Mentally Ill. But if you can see here, there's so many, like 17 listed childhood disorders. I just wanted to point that out again, that there's a lot of childhood disorders. Now, bear with me. I'm gonna just go through my life verse. I actually have 2 of them. I think, is that okay? We can have 2. Yeah. So I have 2, but. So this life verse is Psalm 40, verse 2, and we all know how wonderful, how beautiful the Psalms are. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. Now, I have been depression free for 2 years and 3 months. Kind of counted up. Yeah, but it's amazing because I've had this illness for 30 years, and this has just been the best 2 years and 3 months I've had. But the way I kind of look at it is Jesus and I stand on this rock together 24/7. He has his arm around my waist, holding me firmly. We talk, we're quiet. I always say to Jesus, "Why are you standing here with me? You have so much to do." He always answers, "I will stand by you on this rock, and if needed, I will be with you in the mud and mire again. I will never leave you. I never have, and I never will." So now I understand through all my depression as I look back, he was there with me the whole time. I know in the future, whether I'm on the rock standing or sitting or in the mud and mire, that Jesus will never leave me and he'll always be with me. So that's kind of how I feel like that verse is really. So that was kind of the part of it that I just kind of wanted to do a little definitions. I forgot to set my timer, so Pastor, tell me if I get where we need to go pray. So now I want to go to March of 1993, and I'm 26 years old. I'm married 2.5 years. We were dated 3.5 before that, so 5-6 years together. Joey was 9 months old, and I had been working as a nurse for 8 years or 10 years or whatever, as a full-time nurse. So everything was great. And then that March, I did not sleep for 3 weeks. And I went crazy. I mean, yeah, I saw my grandparents and my aunt and people that had gone before us, and they were telling me it was going to be okay. But I went to the loony bin. So I went to Skiff Hospital in Newton, and Dr. Lewis, as I mentioned, he was my first doctor. Wonderful. I don't think he'd ever seen anybody so sick as he'd seen me. And I just remember I was so psychotic that the demons and devil, everything was just always around me. And I don't even know how many days that lasted, but it was bad, wasn't it, Dad? It was a long time. And then there was a woman, and usually I'm sure it was different women, but they sat in a chair and they sat right by me and they held my hand. And as long as they were holding my hand, it's like I knew there was a reality somehow, but I was still, all the demons were around me. So finally I came out of it, and Dr. Lewis put me on lithium, and I've been on that medication ever since. It is coming to a point where my kidney levels are a little bit high, so we might have to stop the lithium, but it's been a good drug for me the past 30 years. So that'll be coming up. But so back in that March, I was in the hospital a long time. I did get out of the hospital. I went back to work. I'm not sure if I went back to work full-time or part-time, but I did go back to work and took care of Joey. And my husband, he's not here. He said, I've lived it with you. And so I totally understand that. And, he could have left me. He could have walked away. He could have taken Joey. He was 9 months old and left me. So he stayed with me, and he has lived this 30 years with me. So I'm really, I really love him a lot for staying with me and not leaving me. And then, so this is March of 93. I'm 26 years old. So looking back, I'm not going to go a lot back into my childhood and all that. That's there's too much there I'm losing my words. But anyway, so we'll just kind of go back. By around age 10, I had already accepted Jesus, and I knew John 3:16, and I took that to my heart, and he was with me at probably 8 or 9 years old. But we never went to church really much growing up. And then at age 10, I was baptized as a baby. I was baptized at age 10. And then at age 10, things kind of fell apart because Mom and Dad got divorced, and it was just a really hard time. In the upcoming years, I had different step parents and a few step half brothers and sisters. But anyway, so that was kind of a hard time. And I just ignored God. I just totally ignored him from the age of 10 until about 24. And I was on the wide road. I had sex at a young age. I drank all through high school and college. I did work hard, and I did do a little bit. I still went and partied some. And then, but during this time, as I look back, I was hypomanic, I believe, all through mostly my teenage years. So I was kind of always running hypomanic. And during nursing school, I got through that, and I got through that, got a job in Pella. I did have a boyfriend for like 5 years during this time. And, you know, I kind of put him as my idol because I didn't have God. I was ignoring him. So he was, and that wasn't fair to him or anybody. It's not fair to do that to anybody. So, yeah, so that's what kind of happened before. And Jeff and I got married in September of 90. And his mother, or my mother-in-law, his mom gave me a 1-year Bible that in 89, that Christmas. And little did she know that I would tear through that Bible and I would read it over and over and over. And I still try to read the Bible pretty much during the year. So she did that, and we started going to church because we were going to get married. So we'd seen the minister and everything. And so we started going to church, and that led me on a path of 30 years at First Christian Reformed Church in Pella, Iowa. Now, I mean, I really got spoon-fed there, and I really grew there at that church. And I did a lot of things with the kids and all that when I was there. But so that's what we did and we took our kids. They went to church every week, and then they went to Pella Christian School, and so they got to do all the things that I didn't do because I went to 3 different high schools, going back a little bit. But yeah, so, and it's just, their life is a lot different than my life was, but that's what I wanted for them. And I'm glad that Jeff and I could do that. So then, yeah, we got through the psychotic episode in March of 93. And then you go forward, and lithium worked well for me for about 4 or 5 years. I didn't have to have any other medication. I did good. I functioned. I was actually, I think, nursing shift supervisor at the Pella Hospital. So, I mean, I was running I was in charge of the whole hospital. And, but I was still just working part-time once even Sarah was born. And so we did good those 5 years. And then 98, I had a depression, and they put me on Prozac. And I'll tell you, I'm not really allergic to any medications, but I have had adverse reactions really bad. And sometimes they're right when you take them the very second time. Sometimes you've been on them a year or two, and then they knock you down. But I took Prozac, and I got this migraine. We were in Omaha at the zoo, and yeah, so they took me off of that. They put me on another antidepressant. Anyway, by the time 2001 came around, I was not functioning. I was not able to function at all. I was off work. My poor kids, I couldn't hardly take care of them. They were just grade school. And I ended up in the hospital. Dad called me the day that the towers went down, and I was so sick I couldn't hardly, I did look, he told me to look at TV, so I did, but I had to take the kids to the doctor that day or something, and I just wasn't functioning. And so I went into the hospital that month, September of 01, and by that time I was on a lot of medication. And so they did try to redo some of that. I think they had me on Depakote. Ugh, that's an awful one. Like Abilify, awful. Yeah, just got some that are awful. For me, they're good for other people though, but just for me, they weren't not good. And so after I was in the hospital, I had a doctor at that time that did not do me any good, but he would not change any medication. And I was so sick, and I was on that Depakote, and I knew I was sick from it. And I had Dr. Preston in the hospital in 01. So then in like March of 02, I called the office. I said, I'm not his patient, but he took care of me in the hospital. Could I get in? And so she said, 1 month, you can get in a month. And so Dad, Mom, and Dad probably remembers, we all went, and Dr. Preston took over from there. So I've had him since 2002. And he put me in. And I think at that time, then we did like 8 ECT treatments. And that really did help me because I had gotten on disability because I wasn't able to work and function. But they did the 8, and then I was like, yeah, it worked, what it was supposed to do, and I was able to get off disability and work, and I worked from like 03 until 19. So, I mean, you know, I had depression all during those years, but at least I could work and function and do things. So, so that kind of brings you up to 19, and I just, I just kind of made it, what it would be is like 1 week of depression, and then, or no, 1 good week and then 2 or 3 bad weeks, and then 1 week good, kind of good, then 2 or 3. I mean, I just lived that way. I just rotate. It was a cycle, just like they talk about bipolar. So, but then in 19, I got really sick in April. I don't remember. I guess I was at work. Jeff said I shouldn't have been there. I was at work and I got really sick and I ended up starting ECT again. They didn't put me in the hospital. So I've only been in the hospital 3 times, and that was admission when I was manic and then the 2 times for depression. So they started ECT, and this time, and Dad probably can't answer it either, but they did it like they just kept doing them. And I told the doctors, I said, this is harming me. It's making more depression. It's making me worse. And they kept doing them, and they ended up doing over 40 of them. And a lot of people think COVID is bad, but you know what? They shut down the ECT when COVID came. So that was good for me because I couldn't express. I was too sick to express, like, stop doing this ECT. And so, yeah, it stopped. And that was good. I mean, I was still depressed all that summer of 20. And then a few things happened. Like in September, I didn't have any depression, you know, the cycle of 1 good week and 2 bad weeks. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And then in October, I didn't have the depression. But October, I started coming here to New Journey like mid-October, came with Dad to see Corlisa. And then also I did start the TMS, even though, because I didn't know the depression was going to stop, but I think it must have helped me because I did the TMS like October through December. You have to drive every day to Des Moines. And I just pretended like I had a job and I was driving up there every day. So those were the things that happened, you know, that October. And I don't know what to say after that because I've just had no depression. I mean, I've had I've had no depression. I said it right. It's gone. So, you know, and I do think that, and I do feel like the first church that I went to for so long, it was good. I mean, it was good. It had prayers and good. But when I came in here, it just felt different. And I think other people have had this experience here. And, you know, it's just like, this is where I want to be. And now I love Wednesdays and I love Sundays. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just amazing. You know, after, you know, and it'll be 30 years in March of 23 that I've known that I've had bipolar. As I said, I think I did have it. So today I guess I didn't write it in there because it's just today now, I guess, but I feel happy, no depression. I thank God every day. I thank him for no depression, and I don't take it for granted, and I know it could stop, but I just thank him so much. So today I feel happy and excited. Got to be with Benny and be here. But there is one last page I wanted to bring up here that I had wrote, and I don't know exactly when I wrote it, but within the last probably year or so. But, well, what in life now? I was baptized at New Journey, and if you're listening, that makes me baptized 3 times. So I've been baptized. I feel deeply loved by God. I continue to read the Bible every day and do Bible studies as often as I can. I love Wednesday and Sundays. I already said that. I pray endlessly for my immediate family, just us family of 6, because I'm the only one that really goes to church regularly. I have much happiness in my life, but there is a deep sadness. So I'm not sure why I wrote that. There's a deep sadness, but I think it's something, I've got some strongholds, and Kim's been helping me with that. We've talked about those, and bipolar is one of them. But I think this deep sadness that's there, probably something I need to work on with God, and I'm hoping to kind of come to terms with that. You know, I asked God, what would my life had been like if I had not had bipolar? Well, I might have made a little more money as a nurse, but other than that, no. But by March of 1993, when I was hospitalized, I was 26 years old, as I said, a wife, mother, and an RN since 1986. So I guess I already said all that. But what I'm getting at is that I had it all already. Before I even knew I had bipolar, I had everything. So everything that I would ever want. And I became a mother again, despite doctors not wanting me to. And so far, my 2 children have not been diagnosed or had any trouble with bipolar or anything. My family tree is kind of, we think my grandmother, because she would shut the curtains for weeks and stay in bed, and then she'd be happy other times. That's my mom's mom. And then my aunt, my mother's sister, has bipolar, but she does not take medication for it. She does it her own way. And then me, and I take 5 psychiatric medications at this point, and my doctor keeps saying, leave them the same, leave them the same. And then my nephew, which breaks my heart, he's 25 or so, and he's just on Abilify. So it is definitely in the family tree. So I just like to end with, for God so loved the world, he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. John 3:16. I'll just say amen. And I don't know if there's any questions. I don't know if I can answer everything, but I can try or answer them. I can always talk one-on-one later too, if anybody needs that.
Hard to go back to what you felt when you wrote something earlier, but I wonder when you said you felt deep sadness, that followed right after you talked about it.
Hmm.
So I wonder back in that time, that period of time where you think yourself back, if you felt sadness, because you just mentioned you were the only one really going to church.
Yeah,
If you had a sadness that your family wasn't
that is very a sad thing for
getting
me.
the
Yes,
experience you were
yeah.
here in God's church.
And even my childhood, there's sadness there that maybe has not healed or has healed. I mean, I feel like I've been working on that. But yeah, I'm not sure why I wrote that. Yeah,
It's hard to go back or be in the moment you were in when you write something.
yeah, that's true.
I don't understand how you can, you're my daughter, how smart. You just,
We've all wondered that.
huh?
We've all
Well,
wondered that.
well, there's a question there, you know? And she is on top of it, you know? She's
Well-
very intelligent.
You know, my schooling, although I went to a lot of grade schools and stuff, my schooling was probably maybe a little bit better than you. And you went to a lot of different grade schools in Missouri and
Not
things.
grade school, high school,
In high schools, you went to a lot of, yeah.
you can't read.
So, yeah, and you couldn't read, and so nobody was there to help you, and I always must have had help. So I think I'm just all your kids are smart.
I have 5 brothers, and all we did, we fought good, and we, furniture, we didn't have furniture when mom and dad leave, we 5 or 4 older ones. Didn't have to worry about stacking the furniture back, it was on the ground anyway.
And I don't know, I didn't put my timer on. I was going to put it on in case I went to, what time is it, Pastor Dave? Oh, 32, okay, so we're good.
I think kind of